everyone, and welcome to Playspace Podcast. Thanks for joining us this week, where our topic is going to be where to source your play equipment. My name is Yolonda, and I am a former indoor Playspace owner. I owned my Playspace for about 10 years, or a little over 10 years, and I sold it last year, and now I am an indoor Playspace coach and consulting, helping other Playspace owners make their Playspaces great. So, Tammy.
My name is Tammy, as Yolanda just said, and I used to be a photographer for 10 years, and now I am an indoor Playspace owner in Sacramento. We're going on our third year now, and my Playspace is called Imagine Play.
Cool. So this week we're going to give you guys all of our secrets about where we sourced our indoor play equipment. So Tammy and I met at a conference called the IAPA Conference and Expo. Every year here in Orlando, IAPA puts on this really huge conference or convention where they have this really amazing equipment or floor where you can go on the floor to look at different equipment or learn about different resources for your business. So when Tammy and I met, we met on the aisle where there were video games. Do you remember that, Tammy?
My kids spent a lot of time in that aisle. Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I did at IAPA when I was there, something I would never have in my Playspace, but I did the hammer throw. Did you do the hammer throw when you were there?
No, but that's a new thing, right? The axe throwing thing. Is that what you mean?
It is. Yeah. The axe throw. They had axes and hammers and all kinds of weird things that you can throw. So I did that. It was something that was really fun. That was at IAPA, but yeah, I would never put that in a Playspace. However, I did see that when you were there, you and your little ones did a lot of the different soft play things, right?
Yeah. So the cool thing about that conference is that it's not just for play spaces, it's for all attractions. So you'll see water parks there, you'll see like big attractions like bowling alleys and stuff like that. But there is some stuff for us. So there was a lot of indoor playground, soft play stuff. And there was a few things that I guess is for our space, which is more pretend play or imagine play type of things. So we're
right. I found that a lot of the things at the IAPA conference was really great for the FECs or the Family Entertainment Centers. They had a lot of the really big apparatus that your kids can climb on. I am seeing quite a few indoor playgrounds now starting to get some of that stuff. So if you are interested in being able to see firsthand some of the things you can have at your play space, IAPA is a really great conference to go to. They also have workshops where you can go and listen to different speakers. Another conference that I came across recently was the National Association for the Education of Young Children conference. So this conference rotates around the US, and the really cool thing that I found was that a lot of the vendors that I would say that you and I probably buy some of our pretend play toys from, they're at that conference. So I found one of the vendors that a lot of play spaces now are buying from was Cedarworks. Cedarworks, they go to that conference. Cedarworks is a really popular vendor that people are buying their indoor play sets from now, right?
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to go into that too. So the reason why I really wanted to touch base on this topic is that it's the number one question that we always get. Where do you get all your stuff? And I wanted to give a little bit of insight on what we have bought and if it worked well for our play space, because some of the things that we do buy, they don't last very long.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to give insight on like what is good for your play space and maybe what you should kind of stay away from.
Sure.
But yeah, let's just going back to Cedarworks though. I feel like a lot of play spaces have Cedarworks equipment. And I like Cedarworks stuff, but I just think that when they're the number one thing that comes up on Google, that's usually what most play spaces buy. And you have to be careful that you're buying the equipment from them just because there's so many play spaces that have it, and then it doesn't make you very unique.
Right. I agree. One of the things that I found when Cedarworks came out was that a lot of the other indoor play spaces were starting to get it. I was one of the people or one of those indoor play space owners that really, really wanted to have a Cedarworks play set in my space. This was probably back in like 2010, maybe 2011, but another play space was opening, and when I looked through their windows to see what they were putting in their space, they had this really big Cedarworks play set. So I was like, man, they got it before me. Pretty happy I never got it though, because like you said, it set my place aside from other play spaces that had it here in my city. And for me, I just never got one because I want it to be unique. And like you said, I'm finding that that is becoming the norm for a lot of indoor playground owners.
And I'm sure it's because they're probably really great at their marketing, and
they are.
And they make it probably pretty accessible for all the play spaces to get it. I'm not saying I'm not saying that Cedarworks is bad. They're great. I'm just saying that you just got to be mindful that a lot of other places have Cedarworks. So,
right, exactly. Something else, let's see. Lilliput Homes is another really popular place that people are starting to buy the playhouses from. I'm finding that a trend with a lot of the play spaces now is that they're making kitty cities within their play spaces, and a lot of them are sourcing their houses from Lilliput Homes. I actually met the people from Lilliput Homes. You probably did too when I was at IAPA. They are the sweetest people, and those houses are really cool and very detailed. Once again, I never had one of those in my space because my space wasn't built around having a kitty city, but that's another vendor that people can find play homes if they're looking for something like that.
And the fact that you probably don't know about Lilliput Homes, they actually have their own play space, so they totally know what you're going through. They started off as just building playhouses, but then they had a little shop where they had all the houses in, and they opened it up as a play space. So they know all your struggles. So when you're talking to them, that's kind of a nice pro. Do you want to talk about the prices of Lilliput Homes just so people know, or?
Well, me personally, I don't know the prices just because I never had one. Do you know kind of where their prices are starting out at?
I do know.
I figured you would.
So they range from anywhere from like $5K to like $10K.
Just kind of going down the list of different equipment vendors that I've gone to. I'm going to talk about Lakeshore Learning Store. Lakeshore Learning Store, honestly, is one of my most favorite vendors that I worked with when I owned my play space. For me, one of the key reasons being is that Lakeshore Learning Store is like 5 minutes from my house, like literally. They're around the corner from me. Yeah. They have very few stores throughout the nation, but their store just happened to be around the corner from me when I opened my place. So for me, I was able to walk into their store and see a lot of the wooden toys that I really liked and wanted for my play space. I was able to try them out and then able to order them into the store. However, they have a website and you can go into their store and see a lot of pretend play things. I really love Lakeshore Learning Store's kitchen play sets. Their wooden kitchens are amazing. I think if you are in the market for a play kitchen for your place, I personally love wooden kitchens as opposed to the kitchens that are made with the fake wood or that are plastic. I feel like they last longer. My play set or kitchen set that I had that was wood last all 10 plus years that I was in business. I literally sand my play set down every few months and repaint it, and it would look like new.
I wanted to make a comparison between Lakeshore Learning stuff and say, for instance, if you wanted to buy a kitchen from Melissa and Doug. Your Melissa and Doug kitchen is probably going to last you 6 months.
Yeah, for sure.
The kids are opening and closing the doors. Everything's going to be ripping off, all that stuff. The other perk of having a Lakeshore Learning kitchen is it comes pre-assembled.
Yeah, for sure.
It will ship to you fully assembled. You don't have to do anything. You just take it out of the box and put it in your space. So just think about that when you're buy all your equipment. You're spending hours and hours looking at instructions.
Yeah. So you talked about Melissa and Doug. Melissa and Doug is one of the vendors that that contacted me when I first started my Playspace back in 2009. And while their things are super pretty and definitely kind of durable, I just feel like they're not made for commercial use. And that's a word that I think that most indoor playgrounds don't really think about, or owners don't think about when they are buying toys, is that you should really be buying toys that are made for commercial use. I think that Melissa and Doug toys are really pretty and nice for use for children at home, but when you're putting them into a play space where there's going to be hundreds of little hands touching on them, if you are planning for that toy to last long, it's probably not going to last, like you said, more than 6 months or so. If you're getting some of their things. Their things are really pretty and very great, but I just don't think they're made for commercial use.
Yeah, they're really great to partner with as far as your retail area, and we can talk about that in later podcasts. But I don't think overall that you should be buying that stuff for your pretend play area. You have some stuff on here that I don't really buy from, like constructive play.
Let's delve into my list then. So Safe Space Concepts is one of the vendors that I would buy some of my soft play things. If you go onto their website, you're going to see a lot of different soft play items that you can buy. These are usually the things you're going to buy for like your baby play area, or you're going to buy for like your soft balls or your soft things that look like they could be big constructions, but when you touch them, they're soft, and usually you get those so the kids will not hurt themselves. And they're usually things that kids will want to jump on or jump off of. I find Safe Space Concepts, their toys, I find that they tend to be a couple $1,000s when you buy them. Usually you can buy them in piece by piece, or you can buy them as big play sets to go along with a theme if you're looking to do that. I think that you bought a couple of cool soft play things a couple of years ago. I think I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, so this topic will have to be in two parts. So I want to talk about soft play things, okay? You have soft play stuff that is more like really squishy, foamy soft play, which is more like for infants and stuff like that. Right. You have upholstered soft play, which is what we have in our space, which is basically upholstered wood soft play.
Right.
I do think that the soft play stuff that you can get from probably Safe Space Concepts and maybe like ERC for kids, things like that, they do last pretty long in your space, and they can be pretty expensive. Like I think we have a soft play castle in our infant area, and that cost us about $800 or so. But it's really not meant for big kids to be stomping on all the time. So just be very, very mindful of that when you are buying those things and you're trying to put it in a space for kids like 5 or 6 years old. They will rip and tear and things like that. So it's really meant for little babies. While the upholstered soft play is meant for bigger kids that can go all the way up to like 7 years old, something like that. They are very heavy. We use them for our mobile soft play, and it weighs as much as like my 5-year-old, basically, one piece. So
wow.
I do want to talk to you
guys. We'll do a podcast about that one day as well, probably.
Oh, the mobile soft play?
Yeah.
Or just mobile in general, because you were talking about earlier in another podcast how you did mobile things.
Yeah.
I can talk on my side of how we do our mobile stuff too. So
for sure.
Yeah. So the one thing that I do get asked sometimes is where we buy our soft play equipment, and I think that I have the knowledge of how to deal with vendors on sites like Alibaba.
Yes. Tell us, girl.
Yeah, touch bases on that. So when you go to Alibaba, there's going to be all these manufacturers on there, tons of them that do all types of cool things. You know, I would just suggest just messaging a few of them and asking, you know, giving them the information of what you kind of want, and then seeing what they come back with as quotes. All of them are going to be kind of different because they're businesses and they all cost different. Some items that you want are going to be more expensive. Some it's going to be cheaper. You will find though that most of the people that are on Alibaba are going to be overseas, and the play equipment is not going to be expensive. I mean, not super expensive. It depends on what you buy. Because I do think like most of the manufacturers that do the big jungle gyms are in China. And
Right.
those are going to probably cost you a really pretty penny. Like, I think a good one would be like 20K at least.
Right.
A really big badass one will be like 200K, you know?
Yeah.
So just know that going in there. But I really wanted to touch bases with you guys regarding the shipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
And you
that's the
guys,
big thing.
yeah. So our play equipment, the ones that we bought at Imagine Play, we bought 5 pieces. It cost us about $3,000, $4,000 for the play equipment, but the shipping cost us $4,000 too. So
Whoa.
shipping is going to cost you as much as your play equipment. So don't be surprised when they quote you for shipping and it's almost as much. So just because you think that you're contacting them, you're like, oh wow, it's way cheaper over there. No, it's not. You know, I would have bought I would have bought my stuff from a vendor in the US because I feel like it would have cost just as much because of the shipping,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't find anybody that could do it. So
Right. Did you find when you went to IAPA that they had some of the soft play equipment on the floor that you would have bought had you known about it before you bought your stuff online?
I didn't find anybody at IAPA that does the mobile soft play stuff that I have now, but
Uh-huh.
well, maybe one international playground company.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
They do, and I don't know if you know this, but they are also love to play. Do you,
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I did because I did talk to one of the guys and he told me about Love to Play, and that's when I kind of
yeah.
saw that they're a franchise. They have a lot of different play spaces that are open around the country.
Yeah, and so they do manufacture in the US, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. I think they manufacture outside of the US, but then they have employees in the US that is like kind of the middleman for you, so that
Yeah.
makes it easier.
And their stuff is really cute. And before we move on to some of the other vendors, I just want to point out that since Tammy and I both went to IAPA, we both have stories or posts on our Instagram pages where you can see some of the different equipment that we both got to experience or see when we were at IAPA. So if you're interested in seeing some of the things that we saw, go to our social media pages so you can see some of those things that we saw when we were there.
yeah.
One of the other vendors that I really loved was Constructive Playthings. Constructive Playthings, I was really spoiled when I first opened my indoor play space because Constructive Playthings, like Lakeshore, was down the street from me. This one was about 20 minutes from me here in Orlando when I first opened. They have since closed down most of their stores throughout the US and they're mainly online. I think they have like one store now in the US. But Constructive Playthings is really cool because they are a sister store to something called US Toys as well. So when you would go into their store, you would kind of get the best of Constructive Playthings and US Toys. So Constructive Playthings is kind of like Lakeshore, but they're way cheaper. You can get a lot of the same things at Constructive Playthings that you can get at Lakeshore. You can get your wooden kitchens and your wooden play sets. One of the things that I always prided myself on getting at Constructive Playthings was this wooden microwave that I was never able to find anywhere else. And I bought it, no lie, for like $10. It was
Wow.
solid wood. It was heavy.
Mhm.
And I should have bought like 3 or 4 of them had I known that kids destroy everything over the lifespan of a toy. So I could have replaced it over the years. But yeah, man, I bought that thing for $10 from Constructive Playthings. But you can go onto their website and buy a lot of the pretend play that you find in a lot of play spaces on their website. And a lot of it is going to be sturdy, commercial grade, and wood, which is what I like. Constructive Playthings is a store that a lot of teachers will go to shop for things for their classroom. So, and before you go to your next vendor, I would just like to say that for me as the Playspace owner, one of the important things when I was buying toys was to buy toys from places that teachers shopped at rather than just people just going out to your regular Walmart or Target would shop at to get things for their kids for their rooms, because classroom toys, to me, they just are more durable and they last longer. And usually they're going to have less of the additives on them or in them too. Like for me, it was always really important that my toys didn't contain BPA and that my toys didn't have paint on them that was toxic. So I really tried to make sure that the toys that I was sourcing were not only, good grade toys, but toys that were good for the environment for our kids to play with as well.
Just going down your list, you also have Plan Toys, which is also very similar to all the other ones that you have. Plan Toys is actually a Sacramento company. I don't know if you know that, but
really, that's super cool.
And IKEA does have some things too.
Yeah, I love IKEA. One of the things that I always told my parents about IKEA toys was that when you go onto their website, you're going to be able to see how they make their toys, and also you'll be able to see that their toys are made with the environment in mind and a lot of aspects as well. And I do find that although their toys are not commercial toys per se, their toys to me usually last quite a long time, especially their wooden toys.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to kind of touch bases on your last bullet point, which is toy conventions. A lot of these places, not Lakeshore and probably not Safe Space Concept, but Constructive Playthings, Plan Toys, Melissa and Doug, there will be all at a toy convention. The two biggest ones that we know of is one in New York, and there's one in Las Vegas every year as well that I went to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like toy conventions just because usually when you go to a toy convention, you can find toys that aren't in the stores yet, and toys that these toy companies are really just wanting to get into the market, and they're wanting to see if they're going to be a hit. So I always loved buying toys that were new, that parents would come into my store and be like, ooh, what is this thing? And I'd be able to kind of explain the toy to them and how the toy worked. So I love toy conventions for being able to find new toys that aren't quite yet things that parents can just go out and buy.
Yeah.
So it made the space even more unique.
Which one have you been to? Have you been to the New York one?
I've actually not been to either one. So for me, one of the things that I like to do is I always like to find a buyer that was on the floor, and they can actually video chat you from those actual conventions, and they can shop for you. Yeah. Now that I don't own a Playspace, I know you've been to one before, but now that I have more time on my hands, one of the things that I would like to do is kind of flip my role and become a shopper for Playspace owners that can't really get out of their store, don't really have time to go to these things. So I'm really excited to be able to now go to some of these conventions. But yeah, for me, I found shoppers that could shop for me and show me things and allow me to be able to video chat some of those owners. So that's how I used to buy some of those toys.
So just a couple of tips of toy conventions. One is the New York one does not allow kids, so you can't bring your kids to that one. The one in Las Vegas does allow you to bring your kids. You just have to sign them in, and obviously they have to be supervised. And I noticed at the Las Vegas one, they would allow me to, they don't want you to buy any toys on the floor during the time of the convention, but the last day of the convention, they want to kind of get rid of all their stuff. So they'll try to sell it to you. Or you can, if you're really interested, but like, oh, okay, you can buy it for whatever, So
and that's how it is at most conventions too. They want to get rid of stuff, so they're slashing their prices like crazy. So I always wait until the last day.
The other thing I noticed at IAAPA, and I wish I thought of this, but they are some toy vendors at IAAPA, and some of those toy vendors actually sell like licensed things.
Right.
Like, I saw like one booth that had like tons of Disney things and stuff like that. And this guy came in like the last day of the show, right when he came in that same day, I want to buy the whole booth.
Yep.
So just imagine just buying the whole booth and then being stocked for like the whole year.
Right.
So just think about that when you're going to one of those conventions. If you have the money, just going and just buying the whole booth, because we can talk about that later in the retail area, but I found like I got myself in jeopardy the first year by buying too many toys from a certain vendor, and just backlogging the bills for them, so
I understand.
yeah. Okay. And then, so the last thing before we go is I want to talk to you guys about my main vendor, because I get asked a lot about my pirate ship and my castle in our play space. And I actually have a vendor that not many spaces use. I think I've only seen 2 other play spaces have that vendor, and I actually use Tanglewood, and they're from Utah, and they make all types of cool custom castles and stuff like that. So, or custom castles, pirate ships, just any pretend play that you can think of, you can contact them, and they're really nice people. And I spent $3K on my pirate ship and $10K on my castle.
Very cool. And totally a good investment. I think that is really important for us before we close out this podcast, is to mention that some of the things that we've talked about, they sound really expensive. Yeah. But I think it's really important as a play space owner or as an aspiring play space owner that you understand that you get what you pay for, and that what you pay for will last for as long as the investment may be. So, you want to make sure that you buy things that are going to last a long time. You don't want to just buy things that are going to look pretty in your space and they may just fit the aesthetic of your place because you want it to look a certain way. You want to buy things that are going to last a long time, that are going to be safe for the kids to play with, and they're not just going to fall apart after your first or second week in business. So you right. don't want to, be buying new toys every month. For me, it was always important that I had enough toys in my space to rotate toys out. I know that you do a really cool thing where you rotate out one of your sections, and we can talk about that in another podcast. But I always thought it was really important to have toys on my floor and enough toys where I can rotate some of those toys out. But I also think it's really important to have toys that aren't going to fall apart when they're on your floor. I found that one of the most nerve-wracking things for me as a play space owner was having a parent bring a toy to me from the floor that broke.
Yeah.
That was never fun.
Most irritating thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure there's tons of other vendors. This is just a small snippet of what we have experienced and what we have seen. There's tons and tons of other ones out there. That's why we recommend going to a convention or something like that. You can meet tons of other vendors that will fit your space. We didn't talk about what we were going to do for the next podcast. So.
Oh man, tell us what we're going to, we have, so this I think is podcast number 6 now. So we have quite a few topics that we have talked about between Tammy and I that we like to share with you guys. I think that by the time you guys hear this podcast, we'll probably have figured out what our next podcast will be. However, if you have some ideas for things you'd like us to talk about, definitely message us on our social media platforms or email us if you have some topics that you'd like us to cover. That would be great. I'll close out first, Tammy, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Yolonda, and you can find me at Playspace Solutions online. That's my website. Or you can find me on social media at Playspace Solutions. That would be on Instagram and Facebook.
You can find me on Instagram at Playspace Owner. And if you want to check out Imagine Play's website, it's imagineplayoutgrove.com.
Very cool. Okay, thank you guys for watching and listening to our podcast today.